Well, it's Friday night. Thank you for tuning in on this edition of Saturday Pre-Flight, your jump point to the weekend, to great classic content, Saturday morning cartoons, Sci-Fi Saturday night, and many other things that goes on through the entire weekend. Thank you once again for tuning in. What is on the agenda tonight? Well, we are on the third part of the three-part series on the independent 90s television, those TV shows that basically were created for independent stations out there, and many of them have become very successful. Tonight, we will be discussing the last of the trifecta, which is the Primetime Entertainment Network, which down the line gave birth to the WB and UPN, and also gave birth to one of the greatest science fiction TV series of all time on there. Next on my video shelf, we will be taking a look at one of the great classics, the final installment of one of the greatest animes from years back. This one is available on Blu-ray. You might have to spend a little extra money on it. Well worth the watch. One of the only anime of the entire series that is English dubbed. I'm hoping one day that they may be able to dub the original series itself. Then we'll look into your comments, see how you're feeling, and your mentions. And tonight, in fact, we're going to hear from our ODYSEE viewers as well. We'll be hearing from a couple of the ODYSEE viewers out there, as well as the YouTubers. Okay? And then we will check in with Svengoolie. His movie of the week this week is a Hammer classic, which has been seen before, but if you haven't seen it, definitely is a must. So we got all that coming up, but first, guess what we have to start with? The Fast Five. This week on the Fast Five, we start with the box office. You know, we know Black Widow was #1, and there is a controversy that basically, yeah, the numbers may have been fudged as well. And here's one major proof as a story that's come out of Japan that an anime live adaptation took the #1 spot over Black Widow. And you might say, well, second place is good. Nope, even second place didn't get to this. As we find out that Tokyo Revengers, the time-traveling anime turned into a live action, has taken the #1 spot, followed by Godzilla vs. Kong. And finally, Black Widow is in the third slot, and this is in Japan. Tokyo Revengers taking in approximately about, in US dollars, $7 million in receipts. This is really showing, you know, that Marvel is not there for everybody. And the way that, you know, everybody's upset about this incarnation of the Black Widow and what they did to Taskmaster. I mean, people are so pissed off at what they did to Taskmaster, and that's a disrespect even on the actor who was underneath that suit. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing what you do to a character in a series. We need to stop all this race swap, gender swap, political agendas, wokeness. All this needs to go away. You know, because they're saying, well, we can't make new characters. Bullshit. Anime does it all the time. Perfect example, Tokyo Revengers. This is brand new. This is a good story. If you haven't heard this story yet, it's about a guy who ends up traveling back in time to save someone that he cared for, who was murdered by a gang in the future. And now he goes back to try to stop this from happening in the future by going back to his youth. A good story in itself. The anime supposedly has done well. I haven't watched this yet. This came across my desk when it first the manga first came out, and I said, this sounds good. Let's see what they do with it. And so far, it's doing very well. I mean, from what I understand, I think it's over 30 million mangas have been sold for this series. You know, that in 30 million that it's in circulation. I mean, that's pretty good. That's really good for a manga on there. And this is the things that happens. They're not going to omit this. That like what Chuck Dixon said. They have something for everybody. If someone who loves golf, if someone who loves fishing can have enjoy the mangas that are out there, that there are mangas out there. There's nothing to do with vampires or monsters or sex or anything of that nature. It's just fishing. It's just golf. That should tell you right there that the comic book industry is going in the wrong direction, and so is Disney, and so is everyone else in Hollywood on there. This is why they are all losing. Moving on a bit, staying in Hollywood, and this one looks like the 15 minutes is up for Tiger King, I guess. Nicolas Cage will not play Joe Exotic as Amazon shelves the Tiger King project. A lot of people said, man, I would have loved to have seen Nicolas Cage play Joe Exotic, and I happen to be one. I wasn't really a fan of the show. I've heard the story before, and I said, this is another guy that's getting his 15 minutes of fame, which is okay. Some of us can have our 15 minutes of fame, and that's all right to have, on that. But, if you can get a movie out of it, and if you can hire, if you're crazy and you can hire one of the craziest actors in Hollywood, Nicolas Cage, maybe you should get it. But hey, in this case, Amazon passed on this. Staying in Hollywood, well, I guess, you got to laugh at this. After the Emmy nominations, that WandaVision and Mandalorian got a lot of nominations. The next Star Trek film to be directed by WandaVision's Matt Shakman looks like they've pulled it off the shelf. They're going to try it again for the umpteenth time. If they get it off the ground, I'll be really surprised, because how many times has this been shelved? 4 or 5 times already? And let me tell you something. WandaVision, for the fans, failed in the end. You think that this guy is going to end up helping the Star Trek movies? I don't think so. When you have Viacom, CBS, and Paramount running this whole situation, and the way they've handled Star Trek Discovery and Picard and all the others, you have the situation where basically, where are they making the money? Where are they truly making? Netflix doesn't want this anymore. Amazon doesn't want nothing to do with this. We just heard recently that, what was it? Playtime, I think it's called, or something like that, is doing a licensing deal, which I'm shocked at that, for, I guess, toys or something like that. This is the same company that I guess they did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if I'm not mistaken, on that. And, they're going to get some money to continue what they're doing in the destruction. And I've said this before, Star Trek is dead. It's like Doctor Who. Doctor Who is dead. Can they fix this? In a way, yes and no. Doctor Who, I think we're at the point where Doctor Who is done and finished. Star Trek is just right about there. If it wasn't for the fan films out there, I wouldn't be watching any Star Trek content anymore. Even the old stuff. I've just deserted the old stuff, because, what they're doing is they're taking the stories on there. I mean, you saw the Picard trailer. They're adding Q in there. And, one of the great characters I loved was Q. And now they're going to bastardize Q. There's so many stories that they could do with Q, but yet they don't pull the trigger on those. Next, a while back we discussed Demon Slayer selling out at the Barnes & Noble and Amazon and all that, but now we're hearing that other mangas are beginning to run out, and it will be months before they're back in stock. And we just said this before. There's going to be a manga shortage. The high demand for this is incredible. This is why they're still pumping out manga the way they're doing. Unfortunately, they can't print enough of them to get out on the market. You know, and they said, well, it's because of COVID. No, no, no. The demand is high. It's very high. People are buying even the box sets. The box sets that are like $150, $200. They're spending the money to get these. This time around, you got Chainsaw Man, which is right now about to get its anime adaptation very soon. We already saw a trailer for that. And then, of course, now with the finales of Attack on Titan is also selling out as well because people are finding that as well. Word of mouth is getting out. YouTubers are projecting out all these great animes. I mean, we in our off-the-shelf segment, we got a great anime coming in on there. We're going to be discussing that as well. And that's something that, you know, people have forgotten about. And I happen to be one of those that this is one anime that needs to come back. And we'll discuss that later on. But this is what is happening out there, that manga are still popular. And then finally, if you didn't catch the video also as well, Russia is continuing to do its bans on anime itself. They've added Akira to the list, but now they're going after American animation now, as they're banning Mortal Kombat Legends, the Scorpion's Revenge, and they'll probably ban the sequel as well. And they're banning Happy Tree Friends. Oh my God, they're banning Happy Tree Friends. They find it most offensive. They're probably going to ban Happiness and Cyanide next. I guarantee that for a fact. You know, it is ridiculous. This is the massive censorship that is going on in the world. You know, I said it before. You know, comic books are dead. Hollywood is dead. You know, they're producing all this woke. And this is what's happening overseas as well. You know, you have Australia. They've been doing a lot of banning of anime products and all that, calling it child pornography. It is not child pornography. It's not. Yeah, there is a child pornography out there, but most of them have been filtered out best they can. But the ones that you're describing as it is not. And on top of that, it's cartoons. It's cartoons. If you're banning anime and you didn't ban cuties, you know, there's where the weight comes in. There are things out there that, you know, sexually explicit children, but yet it's what they want to push out, the narrative. There is more of a push to sexualize children out there than it is than you could say in anime. Because for the fact that you had a story out in the UK where a guy was telling a story dressed in some flamboyant baboon rainbow type with a dildo. That's ridiculous in itself. That is total ridiculous in itself. And then you have Russia, who's like sitting back and saying, well, we got to protect the kids. Most of the stuff you're banning wasn't made for kids to begin with. And if we could direct toward many books, many animations and stuff like that, we could probably direct some stuff from Russia that is not suitable for children. And why haven't they banned that? It's all politics. It's all politics, folks. It's always going to be politics, and it will stay always politics on there until we start to clamp down on all of this. So that's the Fast Five for this week. Well, in the last two parts, we discussed Crime Time After Prime Time, the Action Pack. You know, the 90s was a great time period for television programs, as networks were trying what they call pilot movies, pilot TV series to see what would do very well for the networks. One network, CBS, was trying TV series in the late night slot to garnish ratings against Johnny Carson and late night television. Even though it didn't do well, it did push out some great television programmings like Forget Forever Night and Silk Stockings on there. Action Pack brought out some great series also. Hercules, Xena, Jack of all traits, Cleopatra 2525, many others on there. But the last part here, part 3, we're going to look at a sort of success and failure at the same time on there. This is a conglomerate of a couple of things in here put together, a joint venture between Warner Brothers Domestic Television, which at the time was a subsidiary of Time Warner, and another company called Chris Craft Industries, which I think they were in the boat industry and other things. They were in many different, they had their hands in many different things. And eventually down the line, it became an actual network itself. And now they were trying their hand, because this was at the same time period that this was going on with everything else. It was called the Primetime Entertainment Network. Basically, like I said, Warner Brothers, Time Warner, Chris Craft, it basically got together, put this together. It started operating around 93 till about 97, which basically, at its peak, had the 18 to 54 demographic. It was carried on 177 television stations. That's about 93% of the country. See, this is one of the reasons why one of the series on here did phenomenal in itself and became very popular and a well-made science fiction series, one of the top science fiction series of all time. Now, a little bit of the behind of the Chris Craft Industries had owned several independent television stations throughout the country, several large and mid-sized, including, as I'm here in New York City, WWOR-TV, Channel 9 in New York City, which is still a very popular channel. It's still around on there. And KCOP-TV in Los Angeles, for those of you who are on the West Coast, know that through BHC Communications and United Television divisions, which made up the network. This is the reason why WB and UPN were able to be launched. Because at the time, you have to remember, we're at the time period where we're just now getting to 4 networks. ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox. Fox at this point was becoming a major challenger to the networks on there. What Chris Craft wanted to do, Industries wanted to do, is to create the 5th network. And the way he was going to do it was to create original programming, 2-hour blocks on Wednesday evenings, a second block on Saturday, before they started moving it to Mondays. And, they started adding stuff on there, and some of the stuff on there was good. Some of it was so-so. The major stuff that came out of this was some good original stories. One from an original classic TV series, returning the original actor back to the series, done in a modern point of view. And that is David Carradine's Kung Fu TV series was returned to the network, whereas it was called Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, and it took place in a more present day atmosphere. David Carradine returns as the great-grandson of Qui-Gon Kane, who basically was raising a son of his own and basically sort of lost track of his son after the temple was destroyed. And now, years later, his son is a police officer and he reunites with his father, played by David Carradine, and they go through adventures together in there. It did okay. There was some good stories on there. There was a tailback to the Magnificent Seven. In fact, this is what one of the original actors from the original movie did portray a similar role, of course, which he's done before in one other movie. Of course, David Carradine started in it. Chris Potter played his son, Kim Chang. Robert Lansing, the great Robert Lansing in there. Kate Trotter, Scott Wentworth it was a good series to see, see a great TV series that from the past brought into a more present day. See, this is where Hollywood needs to look at. Not the kung fu that you see on the CW network, which, they threw they did not understand kung fu, really. They threw kung fu as an action flick. Yes, Kung Fu, The Legend Continues is action, but it also brought back some of the past, which is basically they did bring in some of the mysticism of the original series, where you get the philosophy of the Shaolin monks in this. See, that's the thing about it. That's what's missing on there. It's you have to understand, you can't always fight. And as if you've seen the trailer to the Kung Fu Legends, at the end of the of the opening, you get David Carradine says, "I am Kane. I will help you." That's what it was. It was Kane helping people. It doesn't mean you have to fight every episode. People have things that they go through, and sometimes they need help. And that's what that's what the Shaolin monks did. They helped people, misunderstood, and that's what basically the CW misunderstood toward the series that they have now. This series is much better than the one that Kung Fu Legend Continues is much better than the current one that's going on now. Then there was another series on here, which was okay. Hard to get. I think you might be able to find this on DVD. I haven't seen it. Jack Scalia starred in this. This was had about a year on this, and it was called Point Man. They did a pilot and TV series toward this, and it's about a guy he's framed and convicted for fraud while he was an investment banker. Then he was cleared, and then he goes to help someone running a coastal resort. And, it's sort of he gets into situations where basically, he has to resolve. I mean, it was a decent series. It's not something that drew on there. Jack Scalia is a very good actor at the time period, if you're not familiar with it. This technically ran 2 seasons on here, about 22 episodes to be exact. Not well known, but I always say go back and watch it. I mean, stuff like this, it's original stories that you can get out of, independent media. This is the things that, like I said, the things we're missing. Tarantino says, everything is ideology these days, not art. A lot of these TV series, they're crafted well. So, some of them, you get plot holes that you could drive a truck through. Yeah, okay. But it was a decent concept. It was a good concept to try. Failure is okay in this industry. You hear that, Hollywood? It is okay to fail. Taking a chance on something original is a good thing. This is what we need today. We need to stop the wokeness. We need to stop the political agendas, the race swap, the gender swap, all this ideology and everything like that. This is what's ruining everything. They've ruined Star Trek. They've ruined Star Wars, Doctor Who, DC and Marvel Comics. All these movies and TV series and everything is a reboot, but no originality at all. We have a He-Man series coming out there. They said, oh, it's all going to be a continuation of He-Man. No, it is not. They finally come out and they said, no, it's not a continuation of He-Man. We weren't fans, and we're changing everything around. They said, we're not going to change it, but they're changing it. They're going to change it, and they will always change it. Don't believe them. Until they put something in front of you and they said, look at this. This is great. What do you think of it? they need to listen to the fans, and they need to listen to the new independent media out there, the YouTubers. We're upset with you for doing this. Some of you more than others. Some of you shouldn't even be in this business. There are people out there that shouldn't be in this business at all. Now, another one, which was done by Harvey Bennett and Jeffrey Hayes, was a series. Basically, it was called Time Tracks. This was a good present. This was also produced by Lorimar Television, who jumped into this as well. And the main premise is basically, it's the year 2193, and what has happened is 100 criminals, fugitive law enforcement, have escaped, and they've escaped into time and a parallel universe. You know, most of the time you see these things like Time Cop and stuff like that, they always escape into the past. Here we got they're traveling into the past, but to a parallel universe. So they've traveled 200 years in a time machine called Tracks, and it's back to 1993. A cop, Darian Lambert, is also sent back to apprehend them. He's also given a mainframe computer named Selma, which is disguised as a credit card, and she has a holographic interface, which takes visual form as a woman. Basically, he's also equipped with a special weapon that basically it looks like a keyless car alarm, and what it does is it stuns the criminal and it engulfs them in an energy field and sends them back to the place of origin. See, the thing about with this, because it is a parallel universe, he's able to still contact the future, because what it is, by him going back in time creates the paradox, but he's still in touch with the future by basically sending messages through articles of newspapers in the personals, and they're able to read it off. But, you know, there's also other villains in this series. He's the person responsible is trying to stop him, responsible for the whole situation of Time Tracks and all that. It's a really good story. I mean, this is something that got 2 seasons out of it, 44 episodes. It got 44 episodes, and it starred Dale Midcoff as Lambert, Elizabeth Alexander as Selma, Peter Donnet as Dr. Mordecai Sambit, who was the responsible for this whole situation, and Mia Sara, which is a character from the 20th century on there. And like I said, this is well done. This is what happens when you travel back in time. You can create a paradox, and basically, you're not certain what these criminals are going to do to change the future, and that is the things that who knows. Darian Lambert goes back in time, and he ends up coming back to the future that he is not the same future that he left behind. The series was shot in Australia, part of the Warner Brothers Roadshow Studios on there, and like I said, Lorimar Productions also had a part of this. I mean, hey, listen, Queensland, Australia looks like Washington, D.C. You got to laugh at that sometimes when you look at the perspectives of these series. But like I said, these are series that are long lost on there, and people don't talk about these anymore. Kung Fu Legends, I think you might be able to see that on one of the streaming platforms on there. Point Man, I haven't seen Time Tracks at all anywhere, but it might be out there. I know there are like VHS and DVDs of Point Man I think on Amazon. They still have that available. And finally, of course, obviously, of all the TV series that were put on the Primetime Network, the greatest one of them all, they call it the Space Opera television series. I consider it one of the greatest science fiction series to come out of sci-fi history. Babylon 5, yes, that's right. This is something that still, to this day, 2021, people are talking about it. In fact, they're talking about it heavily again. I mean, some people, they say they want to reboot it, they want to bring it back, sequel it. No, this is a series that it's 5 seasons and it's done. Don't need to go any further. They tried doing spin-offs, they tried to do movies on there, and they were okay, but not as successful on there as the original series is. There was some faltering on there. On there, I mean, some of the writing on this is fantastic. J. Michael Straczynski wrote this. I mean, this was a series that was pitched over to Paramount, and Paramount passed on it. Now, depending on who you believe, who or what presence on there, some people will, always put to the point that Paramount ripped off Babylon 5 to Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which coincidentally came out at the same time that Babylon 5 was released onto the Primetime network. In certain perspectives, when you look at it, yeah, Paramount did rip some things off, and they're known to do this. They already ripped off a video game creator from his stuff for Star Trek Discovery. And there's some elements of Voyager, supposedly, that are elements of another TV series. So, I mean, it happens. It's not good. I mean, sometimes if you create, because the 80s and 90s and current today, you have rip-offs of movies and TV series that they're trying to bank on the popularity. You've had a ton of Jurassic movies when Jurassic Park came out, and still to this day, there are some movies that are made, horror movies that are made about dinosaurs that sort of, that's trying to bank on the Jurassic Park movie, and that's always the situation. But you have situations where certain production sites and all that sort of take a template of of another series and use it in theirs. That's the fine line. How much do you use of it? How much can you say that they ripped off? It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. There's some actors in the series that said, yeah, he did get ripped off, and the reason is that he didn't say anything. He has to deal business with these companies down the line. Straczynski worked with Warner Brothers Domestic Television. The test movie pilot, which was Babylon 5: The Gathering, did excellent. So they decided to go forward with this on Primetime Entertainment Network. If you're not familiar with Babylon 5, I have to ask, where the hell have you been? What rock were you under if you haven't seen this yet? In fact, right now, go over to HBO Max. You can watch it on HBO Max. HBO Max, which is a division of Warner, has all 5 seasons available. I'm surprised they don't have there is a movie. The movie was In the Beginning. I recommend, if you're going to start watching this, do not watch In the Beginning Babylon 5. Wait a bit till about, you go through the whole series. It's best that you go through the whole series, because that movie will probably ruin almost the whole entire series for you. Because basically, In the Beginning is a look back of the seasons prior, all the way back to prior to The Gathering. It has the original Earth war that went on that changed the whole presence of Earth and the universe itself with the other alien races. The Minbari, the war with the Minbari. The basis of this series is it's supposed to be set between 2257 and 2262. It's a unified Earth government that has gained faster than light travel using jump gates. It's in a way like a wormhole. You see where I'm getting at? That allows you to transport through hyperspace and get all over the galaxy. And there are many various races. I mean, there's some fantastic races. You have the Narn, the Centauri, the Vree, the Markab, the Pakmara. You have all these species that are living throughout the galaxy that that Earth does business with. That basically they do trades. The most basic is that they created sort of a United Nations of the Galaxy. You would think of it as a United Nations of the Galaxy. And the reason why it's called Babylon 5 is that there were 4 other Babylons, and 3 of them were destroyed mysteriously. The 4th mysteriously vanished, which there is a storyline in this series where you find out what happened to them. And it takes about 3 episodes to explain, which is done in 2 seasons, which are some fantastic stuff when you find out why the station disappeared. Basically, you have a League of Non-Aligned Worlds, dealing with a lot of the others, with like the Drazi and others. And there are threats that happen. You have the Shadow War. You have the the revolution with Earth. As so many things that happen in this series. And the thing about it is, it revolves 5 years to tell this story. And that's what's great about this series. It revolves 5 years, 5 seasons. And there's so many. There's some character changes and stuff like that. The regular cast, you're talking Michael O'Hare, who played Jeffrey Sinclair, Bruce Boxleitner, he replaced Michael O'Hare as the commanding officer in the 2nd season as John Sheridan, Claudia Christianan, Jerry Doyle, Mira Fernan, which we just lost recently, who plays Delenn, Richard Biggs, who played Dr. Stephen Franklin, Andrea Thompson, Talia Winters, Stephen First, who played Veer Kodo, love his character. Billy Mummy, who you're familiar with in Lost in Space, played Lanier. Tracy Scoggins, who replaced Bruce Boxleitner he replaced as commanding officer as Commander Elizabeth Lockney in season 5. Jason Carter as Marcus Cole, another great character. Caitlin Brown and Mary Kay Adams, who played the same character, called the Toth. They replaced each other. Two actors played that character. Robert Russlin as Warren Kiefer. Jeff Conway is Zach Allen. Patricia Tallman, Lita Alexander, love her character. The great Andres Kasoulas as Jakar, one of 2 of the great characters in this series. Andres Kasoulas, you've seen him in Star Trek. He's in this series. Jakar, what a great story. What a great arc that he has in this series. And also Peter Jurasik as Londo Mollari, who's another character who's part of this story arc of the Narn and the Centauri in this. You know, when you create a great story and you have a secondary character that has a great arc, that is part of the main ensemble of the story itself, when you look at it and you put to the perspective that Casares and Jurassic created these roles to perfection. You cannot get as a secondary character. They were fantastic. As a line says, not everyone is who you would believe in this place. It tends to change you on that. I might be saying it a little wrong, but of course, comments I know will correct me on there. You also had some other people that have shown up in this series. Wayne Alexander, Tim Cholt, David Choley, Robin Atkins Down, Melissa Gilbert, who is the wife of Bruce Boxleitner, shows up as his wife. And of course, one of my other favorites, which I'm glad they gave him an episode of his own, who got an episode of his own, Walter Koenig of Star Trek, Chekhov. plays Alfred Bester, a senior officer of the Psi Corps. I love his character. This is he a villain? Is he someone you could trust? No, you can't trust him. He will only go by what is good for Bester. That is the way he runs. If it doesn't concern, there's one line, is my enemy is my friend. You gotta love that. You have to love that, when it comes to on there. A great actor, Efra Zimbalist Jr. If that name sounds familiar, yes, that is Alfred Pennyworth from the Batman animated TV series. There is a arc in this series. There's a Mars arc in this series where he plays William Edgars, who's a business leader of the Mars colony. It's a good arc. He does very well on this. I mean, there's so many people in this series. There's such a good ensemble actors, whether they had a main part in it or had a small part in it. We can go episode to episode of the special guests. There's so much you could do that was done on this series. And, I'm taking a little extra time on this because basically, when you look at each of the seasons, and this ran on till 98, one of the things on here, they did on the Primetime Network, they did not complete the series on the Primetime Network. It was syndicated from 94 to 96. Then it last aired in 1997, October 27, that's on the Primetime Network. In January, the TNT network ended up grabbing the rights to the last 22 episodes of this series, which season 5 is a good way to finish off the series, including the last episodes. But it wasn't the greatest season at all. Seasons 1 through 4, which is basically, the main titles for the seasons was like Signs and Portents. Season 2 is The Coming of Shadows. Season 3 is Point of No Return. Season 4, No Surrender, No Retreat. Season 5 is The Wheel of Fire. And, you look at the sound, you look at the design nature of this. I mean, it is phenomenal what they've done. One of the major things on this, because high definition television standard was coming in, even though they were still using a 4:3 standard. The series was shot in 16:9 and cropped to 4:3. So they knew, it transmitted in standard definition television, but they knew eventually it was coming out. So sometimes you may on there. That's why, even though HBO Max, Warner have done high definition, there's still a little bit more work needs to be done to this to finally get the full aspect of this. Now, the one great thing about this, or one of the great things about this, is like I said, part of the visuals is also the visual effects on here. In the 90s, we were starting to get to a point that visual effects were starting to build. You're starting to see a lot of TV series, movies start to use more visual effects as the computer rendering was getting better and better. Graphic animation was starting to grow on there. I just came out of college at the late 80s into 90s, and graphic animation was starting to be basically taught, because there were not that many graphic animators at the time. The technology was still going. You needed a lot of computers to just create some of these special effects. You can ask the crew that was on The Last Starfighter how long did it take them to render all those this is one of the great graphic-driven movies where basically they didn't use any models. It was all done in the computer. Now, technically, from one aspect, Babylon 5 is one of the first television shows to use the creating visual effects this way than going out into the models and miniature. Now, generally, compared to, say, Star Trek The Next Generation, when it came to special effects and stuff like that, even though they used models on that, with the models on that, it cost them $1.5 million of each episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. To do an episode visually on Babylon 5, it cost $650,000. Think about that for a minute. And most people don't know about this, but most of the visual effects were using Commodore Amigas and a software, hardware stuff called video toasters in the beginning. I used Video Toaster back in my public access days. It was a great, it did a lot. It did a lot for productions. It also worked as what they call it, as a live switcher. The person I worked with, he was able to adapt things to create a digital live switcher at the time. Now, we have other Black Magic and other companies have digital switchers these days versus a hardware type of point. But, to have it way back then, the toaster was an important piece of the puzzle on some of this programming back then. Later on, they used Pentiums, Macintosh, Alpha-based systems using Lightwave 3D. Some of them were done in physics. I think the Newtonian physics with particular emphasis on the effects of inertia of the motion of the spacecraft. You saw, when you look at some of the TV series today versus back then, science, even though like Star Trek used science and stuff like that, The Expanse is the perfect example, is to use actual science to create the physical natures of being in space. And that was the same thing with Babylon 5. Babylon 5, if you look at the Earth shifts on there, they didn't have gravity. There was no gravity on there. Another race come along and give you the technology on there, but mostly when you looked at some of the stuff on there because of the gravitational fields and stuff like that, and the momentum of the shape, like Babylon 5, how it turns, to bring in that gravitational field into there where people are not floating away. And then, of course, the emphasis on how each of the races basically didn't breathe oxygen. Some of them had to have oxygen masks on, like the Volons, for example, and they lived in places in the station where basically the air was changed to similar to their worlds and stuff like that. And this is the things that you had to think on the image. When it comes from the imaging, it's the same thing as well. When you have, the ships and everything, the way things move, gravity, everything, you have to be within a scientific nature. And, also getting into the soundtrack itself, you had some great, a lot of electronic keyboard and orchestrated and stuff like that. I mean, the opening is just phenomenal. The music tone for the entire series is phenomenal. This is a series that should be taught in production schools, because you went from a modestly budget series to a high-end series by creating some great stuff by using technology that basically wasn't on anyone's scope at the point. A lot of the stuff wasn't on people's scope. And you look at it to the perspective that this is a great series for 1990s, special effect, music, acting, visuals, scoring, everything worked. You have some series that says, well, the acting was okay, some of the storyline, then you have some people that say, well, the visuals was okay, could have been better. Others will say the music score wasn't that great, but the rest of the series was good. The prosthetic makeup was okay on that. And that's the other thing, the makeup effects from the first episode to the last greatly improved, and you saw massive changes about the appearances like the lbry, the Drazi, the Brakiri, the Markeb, the Vri, the Pakmarar, the Volons, the Shadows. The Shadows was a great effect. I'll tell you this, the Shadows is such a great effect. But this is the things that you had on this type of programming. Now you might say, why wasn't this successful? Why wouldn't this be the network in itself be a success? Like I said before, this eventually became the WB and the UPN. But there were a lot of obstacles that happened to the whole company and the parent networks on there. What happened was, Warner, which basically was was part of Warner Brothers Entertainment before AT&T got it, decided to create the WB network with a joint venture with the Tribune Company. A couple days earlier, the Chris Craft Industries announced the launch of the UPN network, which became a partnership with Paramount and a division of Viacom at the time. And basically, they sort of, in a way, canceled each other out in a way. And what happened was a lot of the networks that were owned by Chris Craft Industries, all those small independent stations, they just basically they took issue with the barter split. What was going on at the time, that, you had Warner and you had WB and UPN trying to, fight, for basically positioning to try to create a new network, that fifth network. That's what was going on. It just took out to be the politics. This could have been, one great network in itself, still running to this day. But unfortunately, because of its politics and because, people tried to, pull side deals, it just fell apart. It ceased operations in '97. And basically, like I said, Babylon 5 ended up on TNT. And the other series and films and minis just fell off. And we know what happened with the WB network. And we know what happened with UPN, the UPN network. CW came out of it and other networks, that preceded it as well. And this could, like I said, this could have been the network. This could have been the network. This could have, projected P10 into the stratosphere, against the other four networks. Like I said, Fox was gaining strength at this time. And, it was starting to grow. And because they weren't afraid of the programming, you see the Married with Children and other TV series that they had on there. They were not afraid to produce independent programming that basically all the other networks didn't have. And then those networks started to copy some of the stuff that was on the independent networks. Some failed, some succeeded. This is the things that happened. This was the chances. This was the chances that the independent industry did at the time. You look at the perspective. Hollywood took chances. These independent stations took chances. Some were successful and some failed. And you have to look to the perspective is, why don't they want to take that chance today? Why won't they go further on there? You got streaming sites. You got some great streaming sites out there, and you got some awful streaming sites. I've had issues with streaming sites on my main Samsung television for quite some time. I've had HBO Max crash on my Samsung television. I'll watch a couple of episodes and then suddenly the whole thing crashes. Same thing with Hulu. Hulu crashes on my TV after a couple of episodes go by. I'll do like an episode marathon and it just crashes. Now, whether that's the Samsung app or whether that's the streaming site giving the problems, I don't know. I do get readily updates to the apps on my television on there. I don't have that major problem on my computer my laptop, my phone, or my tablet. It has to do with the TV. I guess it has to do with the TV itself, you know, and how it works with those particular streaming sites. But nevertheless, the television network channels are dying out. Why? Because they don't have the programming that is put on the streaming sites itself. The programming on the streaming sites, and you look at the Emmy nominations, a lot of the shows are crap. A lot of them are crap. The shows that are good out there weren't given the chance to move forward. Even with the delays of COVID, the Emmys could have waited a little bit longer and put those shows in the listings as well, but they didn't. They allowed the politics, the political agendas, the wokeness, the gender swapping and stuff like that. You know, like The Boys got nominated this round around. The second season wasn't as great as the first. And there's still issues if you ever read the comic The Boys on there. WandaVision, horribly ending on that. Horribly executed. Mandalorian Season 2 was okay, but the aftermath of it, you have to see what is going to go forward on this series. You know, should it have gotten this many nominations? Not really. Not really. You know, it was a good storyline and stuff like that, but you had to throw Luke Skywalker in at the end just to get the fans rolling onto this, which was, you know, hey, listen, I don't mind Luke Skywalker being in it, but considering how Disney has handled the Star Wars property, how, you know, you see how they've twisted it, and, you know, the way the comic books that they're coming out with, the new series that we're working on with, The Bad Batch is not that great. Loki was horrible. You know, a couple of other things that are coming out of Disney that are just like, it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out well because of what they're doing. You know, these are companies that are just basically, you know, you got to get rid of most of these people, and maybe you might be able to turn around some of these properties back to the way they were. Maybe. You know, when you have like Star Wars Theory out there, who's about to spend $350,000 to create 2 more mini movies of that Star Wars tale that he's telling about Darth Vader and Master Windu, which I can't wait to see that. I can't really wait to see that. For the first part of it, if you haven't seen that Star Wars Theories video of that Darth Vader storyline, go catch it. Really, it's some of the best stuff out there that you could put as far as a Star Wars product. It's a shame, isn't it, that a young guy, has to show a giant corporation what the fans want. And maybe they should hire him as a leading writer or producer, and get rid of the Kathleen Kennedys and everybody else that's in there. You know, it's about time that, you know, that we stop shelling out dollars to these companies on there. And like in our Fast Five, we already said Black Widow in Japan was beaten out by a manga live action movie. Goes to show you. But Prime 10 was one of the good things to come out of the 90s with Action Pack and Crime Time After Prime Time. And, you know, you saw what happened afterwards. So, we'll move on here, get on this before we start to cry a bit. Like I said, you can catch all this stuff on there. Babylon 5 is available on HBO Max. Other series, you'll have to look for those. They're out there somewhere. You'll be able to probably find it on YouTube or one of the other streaming sites on there. Not as good quality, but hey, listen, it's good. It's a good series. They're a good series. They should be watched on all 3 parts of our programming that we did with this particular independent television station storyline that we've done for you. So let's move on to, guess what's on my video shelf this week? I'm giving you a great classic. Well, off my video shelf this week, a classic anime. You know, one great thing is when a story comes to a finale, to a close. You know, some hit the mark, some fail. You know, perfect example, Game of Thrones, how that failed. How The Promised Neverland has failed as well. But this particular anime, which has been around since I was a youngin', and I saw this on Nippon television back in the day. I mean, this goes back to the late 70s, 1979 to be exact. Now, the movie came in a lot, there were two movies, this came a lot later. This was the finale, 2 hour, 10-minute movie that was done. This is one of the only animes of the entire series that has an English dub. In fact, the dubs were done by New World, and also Ocean has given a dub for it as well. And this is the Ado Galaxy Express 39. And I've discussed this before, but if you're not familiar with Galaxy Express 39, it is a great story. It's about a young boy who looks to become, in a world where people are starting to convert themselves to a more robotic type sense. They're putting themselves into robots. You know, only the rich is able to do that. And on his way in the middle of a storm, him and his mother are attacked by some of these robots, and the rich ones, and basically she's murdered. And he seeks revenge on it, and he meets up with a mysterious woman named Maytel that allows him to go on a special train that travels the galaxy called 39, Galaxy Express 39. Of course, that's the name of the title on there. The story has branched off and given some side animes, including, if you're familiar with Captain Harlock, this is where Captain Harlock started out. And because he's one of the characters in this show. But after a long series itself, this movie is the finale of all finales on there. It is well done in itself. This is basically, to the perspective, if you don't understand what Galaxy Express is, you know, in our lives, we do grow up and learn things. We have a journey. And that is what Galaxy Express is. It is a journey of life. The series starts out, Tetsuro, who's the main character of the series, as a young boy. By the time you reach Ado at Galaxy Express, he is a man. And that is what the story is going from being a boy, growing up, throwing away all the childish things, as you would say, and learning to be an adult. And one thing about this, everything that basically throughout the series that we were trying to understand what it is, how it is, what is the reason for the robots in the world, these droids that are taking over the world and murdering all the humans. A war broke out between humans and these robots. And where do these robots come from? Where did they originate? Because there is a place. All those who are involved, the stories, the basically, you know, people that are in Tetsuro's life, that there are shocking revelations in his life that brings this forward, the things that happen, and the revelation of who Maytel is. Yeah, you hear my voice of it, it's a little strong. You know, when I discuss this, it's such a strong and pointed movie to the perspective that, you know, you have to understand where this is coming from. And like I said, the animation, this is hand-drawn animation. And the transfer, Discotech Media did the transfer of this, and they did a decent job of it, better than what Funimations can do. There are some improvements that need to be made to it, but obviously this is one of the best discs you can get, you can buy. for this series. This is a series that basically created by Leijun Matsumoto, and the screenplay was done by Hiroso Yamamuro. So well written. I have to say, it is so well written on here. And like I said, the Blu-ray, I have the VHS version of this, I have the DVD version of this, and I have the Blu-ray version of this. In fact, the Blu-ray that I got has a replica ticket of the Galaxy Express 39, so I'm waiting for my chance to go aboard that. No, I'm kidding on that. But yeah, it is great. And the thing about it is, a lot of, like I said, there are people that know that there's no English dub of the original series, and to hear an English dub of this version is fantastic. The dub is done very well. Both the Ocean and the New World dubs, they're both very well done. The audio itself, it is done in the Blu-ray version. It's Japanese 5.1 surround, and it does have the original Japanese mono track. Trust me on this. Watch it in both versions, all the versions you can. English, Japanese, the mono track. It still works very well for it. I mean, this is it. To see the quality work on this in a more crisper look. I mean, today, we're using the computers. This is some of the top hand-drawn stuff that is missed in this industry. You got some great animation out there, and you got some great anime out there. But when you look at this is phenomenally excellent. You cannot get away from this. Like I said, it is well done. It is a great story. We need great stories. This is a great story. A story of growing up and becoming a man. And when you get to that point, I guarantee you, you're going to try to hold back the tears. But the ending on this movie will set you in tears. Because basically, for someone like myself who watched the entire series, and to get to this point with Adu, I saw Adu originally years ago when it first came out, when it first hit VHS. And to see it, and after seeing everything else, and to get everything wrapped up the way a series should wrap up a series, it is fantastic. And then you could move on to the other series. I mean, there's some other great series out of this. They have stretched out Galaxy Express. This is one series that needs, even though there is a Blu-ray of the TV series, it needs a full restoration. It needs a proper restoration on there. I mean, the Blu-rays of the TV series, it's fine. It's well. It's done well. But I think we can go a little further and tweak it just a little bit more and get a proper English dub for those who like English dubs. I think it's time that Galaxy Express gets its English dub. Same thing like with the original Captain Harlock series. Captain Harlock is not in English. It is only in Japanese. You can watch if you're interested to watch these series. Tubi TV does have these available on there, and I think Retro Crush does also have some of it available on their site as well. Free, of course, to you viewers out there that are connoisseurs of the anime world. But this, we talk about Akira, we talk about Ghost in the Shell and all that. People don't look back at Galaxy Express. Galaxy Express is one of the top-notch animes in history itself. Same thing with Cyborg 009, same thing with Ikusan, and many other animes that were out there. These are animes that are forgotten in history and has to be pushed back out again. Discotech Media happens to be one of those companies that do give some love to their product when they put it out, when they get the licensing. They work with the original prints and stuff like that. Not the garbage that Funimation puts out on their Dragon Ball box sets. Only one box set is well to purchase. Hard to get now. That should be the box set that should be out currently. If any restoration or anything like that, it should be restored just like that original box set. You know, you got Robotech coming up also through Funimations, and I don't think they're going to do a good job on it, honestly. You can get the Blu-ray on this from Amazon for about $30. The TV series, you're looking at you're going to spend some money. $56 per volume. There are several volumes of that. If you want to get the Blu-ray, not the Blu-ray, the DVD version of it, it is around $20 as well. The VHS version is available out there if you could find it. New, you're probably going to spend up to $30. Used, you'll probably spend $19 if you could find it. It has been sold out everywhere. To show you that this, for the connoisseur out there, it is, something that should be in your collection. If you have not got this in your collection yet, go get it today. I'm telling you, if you've never heard this before, it's well worth it. Start out with the series, finish with Ado. You're gonna love this series. And remember, this is a series from 1979. You'll always enjoy it. Well, that's my special video off my shelf segment. Well, folks, we've reached one of the most important parts of the show. My viewers, my viewers out there, and what is on your mind at this moment. In fact, this week we're getting comments from 2 of our social media platforms. Tonight we're going to start with ODYSEE today. And we're going to start with @Unused. This is concerning the Dr. Slump video I did about a while back. Dr. Slump is based, though I think it will survive woke censorship in the US. I want to see also it's Ipatsu Kanto-kun, which is a baseball anime. It's a very old baseball anime on there. Dr. Slump, I think it's doing pretty well on Tubi TV. I don't think, it should do okay. I mean, Slump is Slump. That's Dragon Ball. That's pre-Dragon Ball there you got. And, the Dragon Ball fans are going to turn out to watch that. Because there are about 2 characters on there that, they're familiar with. That's one thing on there. And I'll tell you, Tubi TV has not had a problem over there with the content that they've been putting up. I think they're doing very well. They're gaining subscribers by the day on there. They're increasing very nicely on there, and there's a lot more coming. I saw some great stuff on there just recently, and some old shows that I haven't seen in a long time, and they're adding more seasons of some of the shows that are already there. They only got partial seasons. Thank you again, @Unused. @TubeU comments, and this is from the RIP Cartoons. The moment they said diverse storytelling, not for me, giving a chance, and parents keeping your kids away. I totally agree on that. This is the reason why Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, and other children TV networks are dying out. They are totally dying out because they've gone to this agenda. Nickelodeon have already put themselves 1 foot in the grave at this point. After that whole LBGTQ thing that they did on there, kids don't want to see that, honestly. Kids want to watch cartoons. That's what they want to do. They don't want to. They watch cartoons to get away from the education, number 1. Number 2, they don't want to be preached to. Okay? Number 3, only our parents should be the ones to teach us about life lessons. You guys didn't want Catholic teachings in public schools. but yet you're pushing certain agendas into the schools. Hey, there's nothing wrong with being gay. There's nothing wrong. If you want to be transgender, wear dresses and stuff like that, that's your own business. But don't push things onto children who don't understand this. And concerning, there are those out there. There are those out there that are either radical in that community or something a lot worse. And I have gay friends, and they tell me I want nothing to do with these agendas that they're doing out there. They just rather be away from this, insanity. Thank you again at TubeU. At Slingshot Warrior commented on the same video. I predict more LGBTQ propaganda. Yes. There has been a lot of it. I mean, we had a story we're looking into from the UK where a guy, they were doing those drag queen readings in the library, and a guy came dressed as a monkey with rainbow colors, butt, sort of like I don't know if it was a fake butt or a real butt hanging out, and a dildo, wearing a dildo. What are you teaching kids? That's not, that is not your responsibility to teach kids. That's the parents. Health class, okay, as it used to be, used to teach you the anatomy and stuff like that at a certain point in the child's education. What happened to the health class? Who knows? The most basic important thing, if you want to teach a child to read and write and math, that's what you got to teach them. You have to teach them all those things. If you're going to the library, getting these readings, you can't throw these extravagant things at the kids. They won't understand it. They'll be confused. You're frightening them. That's what you're doing. You're frightening them. Kids are smarter these days, but still, something like that, they can get frightened very easily, especially little ones on there. Thank you again at Slingshot Warrior. Switching back to YouTube comments and mentions. Let's hope I get this right in the translation. Zeophon Vasilupus, if I'm sorry if I'm mistaken, if I mispronounced that. And this is on the Kevin Smith video. Basically, it's about Teela. It's up to Teela, says the synopsis. It's Teela's journey. Sadly, this means that He-Man will be defeated by Skeletor. Skeletor will take the Sword of Power and the power of Grayskull. He-Man will be sidelined, and Teela will defeat the Skeletor God with her girlfriends in the next She-Man, or something like that in the end. That's why I believe that it will be woke shit about Teela, and I won't watch it. I'm a huge He-Man and the Masters of the Universe fan since I was 6 years old in 1983, and I believe Kevin Smith's Master of the Universe revelation is insulting to all of us He-Man's fans. Yes, I agree with that 100%. How this is going to end, who knows? How is it going to follow? It's pretty much going to follow the way the synopsis is following. People criticize us for saying, nah, it's not going to be that way. It's not going to be that way. But you got to remember this. Certain people said certain things and said that, no, it's going to be the old way. It's going to be the old way, But yet again, every week there's something new that comes out. We'll see when the series starts out very soon on there. Thank you again, Xenophon. Gristel von Rabin. Very sad. Thanks for the warning. Same video again. Not a problem on there. Like I said, these are the warnings we have all here on YouTube have been warning you. Clownfish TV was one of the biggest ones to warn way in advance, and were criticized heavily. Even Kevin Smith criticized Clownfish TV. But you got to remember, people, some of us in YouTube, you don't know us very well, as much as we don't know you, the viewers, very well. But I will give you a hint. Some of us have been in the industry. I myself have worked in various sections of the industry. I have friends in all facets, from news media to Hollywood, to broadcast television, to independent productions, editing, all facets of the business. And, sometimes once in a while, we do talk online, we do chat, and sometimes we find out things. Especially like I had the story with the Courage Cowardly Dog. I knew about some of the stuff that was going on with Courage long before anybody reported. But the people that I spoke with asked me to wait for the person that created it, that he was going to come out with a comment and allow him to bring out his 2 cents first, and I respected that. Once that happened, then we brought out the video. Thank you again, Grizzle Van Rappen. Okay, Slithering Peanut. Same video again on Kevin Smith Alive. Hope you are right, but the evidence is against you. All the evidence is against you. No, the evidence is not against us. If you look at it, Kevin Smith said in tweets, says, I've always been a fan. And if you go back on there a little bit back, he says he's never been a fan prior to that. And I'll tell you this, if you want the biggest evidence of all, on his AMC TV series, that comic book hero, the thing that he did, he said right there, I did not like He-Man. The video is out. It's circulating through Twitter and YouTube. It is out there. Do check it out. He has said this. The producers have said that, they have all said, well, it's going to be from the original series originally. They said it's a sequel. Now they're saying it's not a sequel to the series. Every day a new story comes out, saying, to the fact that basically Clownfish and a lot of others have been spot on right. How the show is going to flow, I don't know. I probably will watch it just for the hell of it. But for looking at the trailers and looking at the lies, they said, Kevin Smith said, I'm not going to change anything. Everything's going to be the same. But yet they changed King Grayskull. They changed his ethnic origin. They changed him from white to black. They changed another character white to black. They changed the look of Teela. From someone that says we're not going to change anything, that's a lie in itself. That is a total lie, because they were never fans. You have to understand, the true fans would not change any of this. They would make some slight adjustments, maybe a costume adjustment or something like that, or a bit of a look, like especially if it's animated. But other than that, they would change nothing else. The show itself, you have the fans. They love these shows. You want to bring them in so they can bring other people in. You have to remember, one person that likes it is going to tell 2 people, then 2 will tell 2, and so on and so on, like that old Prel commercial. If people are not going to like it, they're going to tell people, how was He-Man? Oh, it sucked. He-Man's not even hardly in it. They're going to tell you that. So thanks again, Slithering Peanut. Staying on the same video, Sven Obers. In Germany, we got toys 1 year later. I got He-Man, Battle Cat, and Skeletor. Then the real females got interesting. In 2017, I had an accident. At home, I discovered Lego and Mega Construct and the MO Master of the Universe line. Appreciate your life and try to be positive. We always try to be positive, Sven, here. We try to do that. Unfortunately, there are people out there that are not positive. And we have to tell you this for the reason is that they're trying to tell people that this is happening. It is the situations that, is always happening. And, when you reflect back on it and you said, these are sad people. These people, they just literally, going back to the old Robert Conrad commercial, the battery commercial, where you put a battery on his shoulder and it says, knock this battery off. That's how it is. Take that, they want to start a fight with everybody. They're very sad. You know, you have to pity them. You know, and you got to be mad at them because of what they're doing to the world. You know, we're seeing so much that's going on right now. I mean, we already reported on this, the small bit, and we do have 2 videos out there. No, actually 3 of the censorship of anime and now American animation in the country of Russia. You know, that, and, you know, people have been saying this is going to come across the world. You know, we're seeing censorship in Australia, we're seeing in France, we're seeing in Russia, we're seeing in many other places right now. You know, they're attacking something that basically they're saying, oh, it's child pornography, it's this, it's that. No, they just basically want to throw their agendas into everything. You know, they say, well, it's not diverse enough, it doesn't have this much. How do you know? You know, Chuck Dixon said in a podcast, you know, I read mangas from fishing and golf. You know, there is something for everybody in the manga universe and in the anime universe on there. And it's always been, I don't watch every anime. There's a lot of anime out there I don't watch. There's a lot of manga that I don't read. You know, there are things that I like and there are things that I don't like. You know, obviously everybody is going to have their yin and yang. And you have to respect that. And in the case of this, you know, I'm glad this guy, you know, Sven has rediscovered the Lego, the manga, because the toys was the biggest thing then. People don't realize is that the toy industry was built upon Saturday morning cartoons. That's right, the Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, it goes all the way back. I have someone named Ira Gallen, and a friend of mine is Ira Gallen. Ira Gallen has been talking about this for decades. He has one of the largest collections of movie paraphernalia, films. I think he has the rights to certain cartoons and stuff like that and commercials. And then, of course, I've been to his home years ago, back in the 80s, and he has one of the largest classic toy collections. Any news network that wants to talk about toys, I haven't seen him recently, but they used to pull him for the news. And he used to be a great correspondent for that. Because he has so much detail these days, explaining the backdrop. And he used to have his own public access show. You know, right now he's trying to get some stuff that some old stuff to be restored that's on film. You know, that's one big job. That's one big job because it's a ton. It is a ton. Thank you again, Sven Olbers. And thank you, all of you, for commenting, including on ODYSEE and on YouTube. You guys on BitChute, it's time for you guys to comment on there. And you know where to do it below there on the comments line. So we've reached the end of the program. But before we go, let's check in over at metv and find out what is on Saturday at 8 p.m. on Svengoolie.
This week on Svengoolie,
The Mummy is released again.
must be the Hammer version.
Yes, I believe it is.
Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee star in Hammer Studios' The Mummy on the next Svengoolie. Saturday night on metv.
That's right, folks. It's back again for another run. The 1955 The Mummy Hammer films. I love the Hammer horror films. You know, the old stuff. Love those films. The Mummy happens to be one of them. I mean, it's starring Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Yvonne Frolux, George Pastel, Eddie Byrne. I mean, this is a great version of The Mummy. If you have not caught this and you love those classic horrors, the Hammer production of this is very well done. It is so well done. The makeup effects is, I mean, when I was a kid, this gave me a couple of nightmares in itself. I mean, it is pretty well done. Considering, I mean, you look at today, the Mummy, the Brendan Fraser one, I mean, oh yeah, that's great, you know, with digital effects. But here you had the wraps, the makeup effects that they did for the Mummy. I mean, this was great. Christopher Lee, playing the Mummy on there is fantastic. I mean, he's fantastic as Dracula, and he was fantastic as the Mummy. All these films that they made over at Hammer in that time period over at the UK, were some great stuff. I can go down a list of horrors from Hammer films that, is a must watch. Maybe we'll do that one day. So that's 8 p.m. Eastern on your local MeTV on Svengoolie. If you don't have MeTV, you know what to do. Go to metv.com and find out where in the world you can get Svengoolie on a Saturday night, including the Sci-Fi Saturday Night, which you get like Star Trek, Buck Rogers, Night Stalker, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So many good content on this channel. In fact, if you haven't caught the video, they just added Monk. They're trying to return to the Sunday night mystery movie. If you remember that from the NBC days back years ago, they've just teamed up Monk with Columbo on a Sunday night. In fact, it's this weekend is the first episodes are running this weekend. Catch that, and that's starting at 6 p.m. Eastern on MeTV with a Columbo movie followed by not one but two episodes of Monk. Tony Shalhoub, fantastic actor, Emmy Award-winning show. A fantastic show in itself. So, I gotta say, have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself. We're deep in the middle of summer. Speaking of that, deep in the heart of Texas, I saw a video one day that Pee Wee Herman finally found the basement in the Alamo. We got to talk about that one time. But once again, don't forget to hit that subscribe, like, share. We're here every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern on your local social media platforms, YouTube, ODYSEE, and BitChute. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a viewer. Thank you for being a friend. I'm kidding. Quoting another great TV show, The Golden Girls. But be sure to check us out. Also, be sure to check out Man with the Show Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Right here also on all of our social media platforms. Once again, thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you back again next week. And we also have a major announcement next week concerning the future of the show. We will be taking some time off, and basically we're beginning to make some minor tweaks as you guys are enjoying this show. So once again, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Saturday morning cartoons. Enjoy Sci-Fi Saturday Night with Svengoolie and the rest of the great weekend. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.